This is News and Views on Salam Media with myself, Salaelo Makwidiri. Good morning once again if you just joined us. We're going to be turning our attention now to Syria, where Damascus has condemned what it calls a new Israeli military incursion in the countryside just southwest of the capital. Syrian officials say around 60 Israeli soldiers have moved to seize ground near Mount Hermon, a strategic high ridge that is overlooking Beit Jin. Israel hasn't commented directly on that allegation, but regional reporting points to a stepped up operations in the area. And within 24 hours, drone strikes south of Damascus killed several Syrian soldiers, with more raids reported last night. The fear now, a dangerous tit for tat along a demilitarized line that is supposed to be governed by the 1974 disengagement agreement made between the two countries. And if that sounds like a local border story, well, it isn't. It comes as Syria's new authorities try to re-enter global diplomacy. They are promising reconstruction and elections in September. I think we all know that this is a new chapter in Syria's history after Assad's fall in December last year. And there's a new interim leader that is in place, Ahmed al-Shara, in the interim leader that is eyeing reconstruction, and there might be parliamentary polls next month. And this is going to be an interesting story to kind of unpack, to dissect, and look a bit further into. And we'll be speaking to a journalist, American journalist, correspondent, Brother Bilal, who's joining us via our virtual platform. He's a good friend of the station, and he has a keen eye and an ear on the ground when it comes to the latest out of Syria. Brother Bilal, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning. Salam.
Thank you for having me, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all the brothers and sisters there.
Pleasure's all ours. I think we can kickstart the conversation with you, maybe just painting a picture for us. What actually is happening near Mount Hermon at this point? The Israeli soldiers that have made their way over the border, is this a symbolic patrol or a more meaningful ground hold that changes facts on the border in itself? What are your sources on the ground saying today?
Well, the first thing is that no, there's no symbolism that's happening here right now. This is normal for the Israelis. They carry out all kinds of raids, not almost with impunity, with impunity. Back in March, Benjamin Netanyahu made it clear that he didn't want any armed troops on their southern or on the Syrian southern border or the northern border of Israel. And that has been observed. Just yesterday, there was supposed to be some surveillance equipment near a place called Jebel al-Mena, and that's south of Damascus. Afterwards, there were about 9 different airstrikes because in that immediate area. Once those airstrikes stopped towards the late evening, the night, it seemed that there were paratroopers that were lowered down into the area. Now, it's not clear exactly what was there in that area or who was in that area, but what does seem to be clear is that there are the only ones who would have access to paratroopers and be able to lower them down into those territories would be the Israelis. Now, also bear in mind that the Israelis just about 5 days ago did another incursion across the 1974 line into a place called Beit Jin. Now, this is very significant, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm going to try to paint a mental map for everyone there. In the west of southern Syria, you've got a place called Quneitra. It's mostly run by the IDF, or I should say, they have their military bases there. Now, we're talking Syrian territory, not Israeli territory. And you go to the far east of southern Syria, and you've got a place called Suwaydat. Suwaydat is a place where they have the militia forces, which are loyal to Tel Aviv. And in between, you've got a little small area called Dara. And that area is supposed to be under control of Damascus. But as we just mentioned, there are no troops that are there in Dara. So in other words, by the time we eat dinner tonight, or in a week, or a few hours from now, all of southern Syria could be under control of Netanyahu. This is the situation here. It's a very, very serious situation.
Most definitely, and I think one that deserves a bit more attention than it is currently receiving. I want to touch on something that you slightly spoke about, the 1974 disengagement agreement. Syria says this latest move from Israel is a clear violation thereof. But practically, I think for the benefit of our listeners, what does that agreement cover in the Herman and the Beit Jean sector?
Okay. First of all, I'm going to speak in very absolute terms so that it's easy to understand with saying just a few words. Forget about the 1974 demarcation agreement. Totally throw it out of your mind. When the country fell from the hands of Bashar al-Assad back in December, they launched a raid into Syrian territory, crossing the 1974 line, and they took over Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon is the highest point in those territories. It gives you the ability to see into southern Syria, southern Lebanon, and northern Israel. So they came in back in December and totally took over Mount Hermon. Even Benjamin Netanyahu did an interview from that territory and said that they're going to hold it for an indefinite amount of time. So I started this part of the answer by saying to forget about the 1974 line, because the Israelis disregarded it as soon as the government of Bashar al-Assad fell. So it's not like there's some tit for tat or something of this nature. Before the government in Damascus basically had even arrived, they had already taken over that mountaintop. So those agreements just don't apply. They don't apply. And with all of the negotiations that are allegedly to have been taking place, and I could give you the details of that if you guys are interested in that. I'm not sure how much time you have, but that's not being observed. No.
I want to just segue a bit into the Damascus politics. Syria's well, maybe let me begin here. Israeli officials often frame the actions in southern Syria as protecting the Jews communities. I think we saw earlier this year the instability in that part of Syria, the Golan side towns also. How much does that narrative shape what happens along this ridge line currently?
Okay, that dynamic is for international consumption. It's not for local consumption. Everyone here and in Damascus understands that that's nothing more than a pretext for, like the Americans when they wanted to quote unquote spread democracy in Iraq. Well, we haven't seen any democracy yet. So here, that's just a pretext where they say, okay, well, the Jews are our brothers and they're under attack and so on and so forth. The aggressors going back earlier in the part of the summer were the Jews' militia forces, not the Jews' community, but the Jews' militia forces. They are not one and the same. The Jews people and the Bedouins and such like that, while there have been problems between the different communities, but they've largely lived amongst each other for a long time. There was a conference just a few days ago where someone said something that was very important, and I hope that your listeners can hear this. They said, Bilal, because this is a conference between Christians, Muslims, and Jews. He said, Bilal, never have our communities had any problems between each other for religious reasons.
Hmm.
They've never had problems for religious reasons. It's always been because of some bigger power is pushing this community or that community to be the enemy because for various reasons. So once again, throw this image out of your mind that this is about protecting Jews because it certainly isn't, and nobody here even believes that.
Hmm. 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 Very, very important to note again. As I mentioned, I wanna, just look at the politics in Damascus at this current moment. I think it's a very, very critical time in Syria's, new chapter post Assad. The new interim leadership, I'm not sure if we still call them new at this point, but the interim leadership is trying to project, a sense of normalcy. The talks of reconstruction deals, elections, and there's even, I think, a UN General Assembly speech, which is lined up late in September. Does this border tension almost undercut that diplomatic push that the interim leadership is looking for?
Well, I think that what they're trying to do is to work on two axes. They're trying to negotiate with an entity, the Israelis, who have no history of respecting any agreement. The 1974 line is the case in point. So they're trying to negotiate with an entity that it doesn't matter what you negotiate with them; they'll only respect it up until they have an opportunity to not respect it and to get some type of gain from it. The other axis that they're trying to do is that they're trying to maintain a sense of normalcy so as not to incite the Syrian people, because the Syrian people have an inherent a hatred for the Israeli government and the Israeli forces, particularly because of what's happening in Gaza. The Syrian people feel that, they understand that, and I think that the government is trying to downplay a lot of these very, very, very serious events. As I made mention, and I want to say this again, southern Syria could be lost at any time. When I say southern Syria, I'm talking about virtually everything south of Damascus, because and it wouldn't even be a fight because there aren't government troops in the Dara area. So we're going to have to watch it and wait and see. But things are not as advertised like it's business as usual.
No, most definitely. We're quickly running out of time, unfortunately. But just let's say in the next 72 hours, are there any, let's say, three concrete indicators that you're currently tracking that will probably tell us whether this cools down or gets even hotter? So to say.
No, I can't give you three indicators, and I'll tell you why.
Mm,
Because the government here in Damascus has not taken any type of firm stance against Israeli aggression. And
mm,
now a lot of people will say, well, we understand that because they don't militarily have the ability to resist them, and so on and so forth. And I think Syrians and people here can appreciate that. They can understand that. But I also am hoping that those in Damascus can understand one thing. The Israelis are not going to stop. They're not going to stop unless you show them something. If you don't show them anything, they will continue to take territory because that's what they do. Benjamin Netanyahu got up on TV 2 weeks ago and he's talking about a greater Israel project. He's telling everybody exactly what he's going to do. And that includes taking over large portions of Syria. But those who are not looking to act are explaining it away. He didn't mean that. What he said really was he was talking about a cat, or and so here we are. So even Saudi Arabia and other places who are part of the Greater Israel Project, you're not seeing any movement from them. They are notorious for being pro-Israel, even when they don't want to come out and say it. Their actions or their non-actions make it crystal clear that they're not willing to act in the interest uh, 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 that the Muslims are expecting.
Mm. And I think we're going to learn on that note. I think this is a story to continue following quite closely, Brother Bilal, and I'm sure we'll be keeping in touch with you just to get the latest again. But we're going to leave it here for now. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
There you go. Thanks to Bilal Abdul Kareem, American war correspondent with years inside Syria and its borderlines. And yeah, the picture this morning, well, Israeli ground forces moving near Mount Hermon. There have been fatal strikes in the last 24 hours around Damascus, and there's a fragile disengagement line that is tested yet again by the genocidal Israeli forces. And oh wow, Israel, Damascus tries to reopen for business, to reopen for diplomacy. It'll be interesting how this new turn of events will affect that, reality that they're so much in need of. And we'll definitely be keeping watching the Herman sector, Keswa, and any UN movement on monitoring. And it'll be interesting to see how the next 72 hours, most importantly, play themselves out. We're going to take a quick break. There'll be more on the other side. This is News and Views on Salam Media.